Hey everyone! So the highlight of Parsha Bechukotai that everyone always speaks about is the Tochacha, these series of punishments that Hashem promises He's going to put upon us if we don't follow in His ways. But the part of Parsha Bechukotai that doesn't get spoken about as much is what comes immediately after the Tochacha. And that's the discussion of Erechin. Erechin is this concept that if a person decides to dedicate their worth or their value to the Beit HaMikdash, the Torah says based on their age and based on their gender, goes through the different amounts of money that they have to pay. That's the equivalent of the value of themselves. And it's a bit strange, it's a bit odd, that after the intensity of the Tochacha, we go straight into these almost dry and technical details about how much money you have committed to consecrate to the Beit HaMikdash. And we have to ask, what's the deal with this juxtaposition? So a beautiful idea I saw written by Rav Mordechai Kamenetsky in the name of the Kotzker Rebbe is as follows. That essentially after a person experiences a Tochacha and feels that they've sinned so much and therefore they've been punished so much that they're at this lowest place in their life, they must feel that obviously they have less worth and less value than they had before, right? Because they obviously did so many bad things to get them to such a low place. And what the Torah does by following the Tochacha immediately with this concept of Erechin is reminding us that no matter what you do, your Erech, your value, your worth, always stays the same. Because the beautiful thing about the concept of Erechin is that no matter what kind of person you are within your age and gender bracket, your value is always going to stay the same. So if you're a 40-year-old man, let's say, then whether you're the most prominent 40-year-old man in society or you're the biggest lowlife of society, your value is always going to be 50 shekel across the board, no questions asked. And even if you feel like you're at a super low place because you've done so many sins and you've gotten punished so much that you feel like you deserve this Tochacha and therefore you have less value and less worth as before, Hashem is telling you you're wrong, your Erech, your value is always going to stay the same. And it's a beautiful idea to explain why Erechin immediately follows the Tochacha. But it could do more than just that, because it could help us reframe the entire concept of the Tochacha. My Rabbi Rav Tzvi points out every year, both by Parsha Bechukotai and by Parsha Ki Tavo, that it's odd that when it comes to the blessings that God writes in the Torah, the things that happen to us when we do follow in His ways, the Torah just spends a couple of psukim speaking about the general good things that are going to happen to us. But when it comes to the curses and the bad things that are going to happen to us when we don't follow in Hashem's ways, so then we go into intense, gory, gruesome, specific details, highlighting all these horrific atrocities that are going to happen to us, and we spend way more time and way more attention on the bad than we spend on the good, and it seems a bit disproportionate. Why are we emphasizing the bad way more than we're emphasizing the good? But Rav Kay always says it's intentional. Because when it comes to Avodas Hashem, our Avodas Hashem and our relationship with Avodas Hashem is not that we have two paths and we have two options. And you could take either path as long as you're willing to put up with the consequences. It's not that there's a good path and you're totally able to take the good path as long as you're willing to accept the reward, or you're totally able to take the bad path as long as you're willing to put up with the punishment. That's not what Avodas Hashem is, because if that was the case, the reward and the punishment would be given equal attention in the Torah. Rather, our relationship with Avodas Hashem is that we have one path. We have made a brit, we have made a covenant, we have committed ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have one path, and that is the only viable option for us. So then what's the point of the punishment? The point of all the punishments listed in the Tochacha is as a deterrent to either try to keep us away from veering off the path, or that if we unfortunately do veer off the path and enter this no man's land, the point of the Tochacha and these punishments are a way to prod us back and get us to return back to that original path that we are supposed to be on. And essentially this is all highlighted by the concept of Erechin. Because even if you veered off the path, it's not that you've picked an alternative path. And as long as you're willing to put up with the consequences, your new path is a totally viable option, and you're totally free to do whatever you want. And you've changed your person because you've picked a new path, you've picked a new life for yourself. No. You're never able to pick a new life or pick a new path. Your erech, your value, is always going to stay the same. Your mission, your purpose is always going to stay the same. And even if you think you're picking a new path and you're changing directions, you're not. It doesn't work that way. Essentially, what Erechin is teaching us is that the point of the punishments of the Tochacha, these aren't just consequences of a new life that you choose, but rather the Tochacha is a reminder that this new life is not a viable option to begin with, and you need to go back to that original path, to that original life from which you came. Essentially, you can't run away from Avodas Hashem. That's always going to be your path, whether you like it or not. Now, it's a really scary thought, maybe even scarier than the Tochacha itself. But in a way, it could also be inspiring. Because this idea of Erechin reminds us that God is never willing to give up on you, which means that it's never too late. You're never too far off the path to turn back to him. Okay? Have a great Shabbos. Bye-bye.